What would you do if the person you care about most vanished into the wilderness, and every step to find them seemed blocked by fate itself? In this gripping story, Linda and Quang's mother face a shocking accident that halts their search, forcing Linda to stay behind at the farm, nursing her injured leg while tending to the animals and anxiously waiting. Meanwhile, Quang struggles to reach her after losing his phone, wandering deep into the forest where the signal is weak and fleeting. Will they reunite, or will the forest keep them apart? Subscribe now to follow every tense, emotional moment of their journey. The sun had barely risen, casting a pale golden light over the winding mountain road, when Linda and Quang's mother set out in search of him. The morning air was crisp but carried an unsettling tension, as if the forest itself sensed the urgency of their journey. Every turn of the narrow path seemed to stretch endlessly, the towering trees looming like silent sentinels over their passage. Linda's heart thumped in her chest, a mixture of anxiety and determination, while she kept one hand pressed gently to her injured ankle, already tender from a misstep the day before. Her thoughts swirled constantly. Quang was out there somewhere, perhaps lost, perhaps in danger, and every passing minute without him gnawed at her. They had driven cautiously, the car hugging the curves of the road, but fate, as cruel as it could be, was not on their side. A patch of slick mud hidden beneath a layer of fallen leaves caught the tires, sending the vehicle skidding violently to one side. Quang's mother shouted, a sharp cry piercing the morning silence, and Linda felt herself flung forward against the seatbelt. The car spun with a terrifying slowness, metal groaning and leaves flying in every direction, until it finally shuddered to a halt against the embankment. The sudden stillness was deafening. Linda's chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath, panic clawing at her. She instinctively moved to step out of the car, only to be met with a searing pain in her leg, a deep, throbbing ache that made her knees buckle. She gasped and sank onto the edge of the seat, pressing her hands against the swollen ankle, feeling a cold sweat break out across her forehead. Her mother, her own face pale with shock, leaned over, fumbling to open the door and steady her. Words of reassurance came in halting whispers, but neither of them truly believed them. The reality of the accident weighed heavily in the air. The road ahead, which had seemed merely challenging a few moments ago, now felt like an insurmountable obstacle. The dream of finding Quang today, of ending the gnawing anxiety that had followed them since morning, slipped further away with every pulse of pain in Linda's leg. She wanted to push forward, to ignore the injury, but even her resolve faltered under the raw intensity of the pain. As she sat there, leaning heavily on her mother's shoulder, Linda's mind raced with images of Quang wandering alone, possibly confused or desperate, and a bitter frustration surged through her. She had come so far, taken every precaution, yet fate had thrown this cruel twist in her path. The forest around them, normally tranquil and welcoming, now seemed menacing, the rustle of leaves sounding like whispers of warning, and the distant caw of a crow echoing ominously. Each second stretched, and the urgency that had driven them now mingled with a helplessness that gnawed at her heart. Her mother suggested they turn back to tend to the injury, and though Linda's pride and worry clashed violently, she finally nodded, knowing that without strength and mobility, they could achieve nothing. Reluctantly, they reversed the car and began the slow, cautious journey back, each bump and curve a painful reminder of the detour that fate had forced upon them. Even as the road carried them away from the accident, Linda's thoughts remained anchored on Quang. She imagined him navigating the wilderness, unsure which direction to take, and a shiver ran down her spine. The urgency to reach him burned hotter than the pain in her leg, and she vowed silently that she would not rest, would not yield, until she had found him. But for now, she had no choice but to retreat, to tend to her wounds, and gather the strength they would need to continue the search. Each moment was a torment of helplessness and hope intertwined, a delicate balance between despair and determination, and as the forest passed by in a blur of green and shadow, Linda's heart beat with a relentless question: how long before she could see Quang again? And would he be safe when she did? Returning to the familiar yet now strangely silent farm, Linda felt a heavy weight settle over her heart. The winding trails, the rustling trees, and the distant chirping of birds, everything seemed both comforting and mocking, a reminder of Quang's absence and her own vulnerability. She moved slowly, each step on the uneven ground sending jolts of pain up her leg, forcing her to pause repeatedly. Her mother guided her to the old farmhouse, a sturdy building that had stood through generations, and helped her inside. Linda sank into a chair near the window, wincing as she removed her shoes and wrapped her ankle in a cool cloth. The room smelled faintly of hay and wood smoke, a scent that usually brought warmth and nostalgia. But today it only accentuated the emptiness she felt. She glanced outside, eyes following the horizon where the forest disappeared into the distance, imagining Quang moving through those same woods, possibly cold, hungry, or weary. Her chest tightened, and a shiver of fear ran down her spine. Days bled into one another as Linda settled into a slow, painful routine. The farm demanded attention: cows to feed, chickens to gather, water troughs to fill, but even these familiar tasks now felt like trials. Each morning, she rose with the first light, careful not to strain her leg, yet unable to resist the pull of duty. She washed the animals' coats, tended to the garden, and moved between barns with painstaking care. The repetitive motions became both a balm and a torment. They distracted her from the ache in her leg and the gnawing worry for Quang, yet every glance toward the forest edge reminded her that he was still out there, waiting, lost, or in danger. As she worked, the sun climbed higher, casting golden streaks across the fields, and she imagined that somewhere in those woods, Quang might also be feeling the same sun on his skin, searching, struggling, just as desperately as she was. The nights were the hardest. As darkness swallowed the farm, silence pressed against the walls like a living thing. Linda would sit by the window, her leg propped on a pillow, staring into the shadows of the trees that bordered the property. Her mind replayed every detail she could remember about the day Quang had disappeared: the sound of his voice, the confident stride with which he had left, the stubborn determination in his eyes. She clutched her knees to her chest, imagining his face in every flicker of moonlight. Her anxiety twisted into something sharper each night, a mix of longing, fear, and a gnawing guilt for being unable to protect him. Even the simple act of listening to the distant call of an owl or the rustle of leaves became a question: was that him? Was he near? Or was it another cruel trick of the wilderness? Yet amidst the fear, Linda's resilience refused to waver. Painstakingly, she nursed her ankle back to health, applying poultices, keeping it elevated, and forcing herself to rest despite the urge to sprint back into the woods after Quang. She would whisper his name softly, as if the sound itself could reach him across the miles and the dense forest, a fragile thread connecting them. Each evening, she allowed herself a fleeting moment of hope, imagining that soon he would emerge from the trees, tired but safe, and she would run to him, letting relief and joy wash through her exhausted body. But reality, as unyielding as the forest itself, reminded her of the waiting game they were both trapped in. Every sunrise brought a mixture of dread and anticipation. Every task completed brought small satisfaction yet no release from the tension. Through it all, Linda discovered the quiet power of patience and determination. She learned to move with care, to find strength in routine, and to hold her hope like a fragile flame against the oppressive shadows of fear. The farm became her sanctuary and her prison, a place where she healed and waited, where each feed, each sweep of the barn, and each glance toward the distant forest was infused with longing. She knew that only time, and perhaps a touch of luck, could bring Quang back safely, yet she refused to let despair consume her. With every heartbeat, every careful step, she silently promised herself that she would be ready when he returned, that her heart, her home, and even her wounded leg would stand firm for the moment they would finally reunite. Meanwhile, far from the relative safety of the farm, Quang struggled through the dense forest, each step a battle against the tangled undergrowth and the heavy weight of uncertainty pressing on his shoulders. His mind raced, replaying the last moments before he had been separated from Linda, the panic of the stolen phone still fresh and bitter in his thoughts. Without it, he was effectively cut off, a lone figure in a vast wilderness, dependent on sheer luck and the faint hope that he could find a way to reach her. His boots sank into the damp earth, and each snap of a branch underfoot echoed like a warning, making him startle and glance nervously into the shadows. He had walked for hours, following the faint trails he hoped would lead him to a place with a signal, yet the forest seemed endless, a labyrinth designed to test his endurance and resolve. Finally, he stumbled upon a small clearing and spotted an abandoned cabin half hidden by thick foliage. Heart pounding, he ran toward it, hoping desperately for a telephone or a passerby, anything that could connect him to Linda. But as he reached the door, his chest heaving from exertion and anxiety, he realized the signal here was almost non-existent. The line of sight for the network was blocked by towering oaks and dense underbrush, and even as he raised the borrowed phone, he could see the bars flicker uncertainly, one moment full, the next vanishing entirely. Quang's frustration surged, hot and sharp. He pounded the phone lightly, muttering under his breath, trying to summon the connection, to make the device obey, but the forest seemed determined to keep him isolated. He had never felt so helpless, so cut off from the person who mattered most in his life. Time stretched, measured by his increasing desperation and the fading light of late afternoon. He had to make a choice, wait in the clearing, risking exposure to the elements, or push deeper into the forest, chasing the faint hope of a stronger signal. Each decision felt heavy with consequence, a literal and metaphorical weight pressing on his every move. He chose to wait, kneeling on the damp ground, phone clutched tightly in both hands, eyes scanning the treetops for the slightest hint of light or movement. Minutes passed like hours, each flicker of the signal meter sending a jolt of hope through his chest, only to crumble as it disappeared again. His throat tightened, dry with frustration and fear. And he whispered Linda's name as if speaking it aloud could somehow summon her to his side. As night fell, the forest transformed into a shadowy labyrinth of uncertainty. Crickets chirped relentlessly, the rustle of unseen creatures in the underbrush kept him alert, and the cold air crept into his bones. Yet, even in the darkness, Quang refused to surrender. He forced himself to focus, studying the phone, analyzing every slight fluctuation in the signal, and learning to wait patiently for the moment when the bars would stabilize. Each fleeting chance became a test of timing and endurance. Each second of connection, or near connection, felt like a lifeline. He imagined Linda at the farm, tending to the animals, her leg wrapped carefully, her thoughts undoubtedly drifting toward him as much as his always did toward her. The thought spurred him on, giving him the courage to endure, to push through the frustration, and to remain vigilant, knowing that any opportunity to call could come and go in an instant. Exhausted, sore, and yet unwilling to give in, Quang finally allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Despite the peril, despite the isolation and the gnawing fear that he might never reach her, he understood something vital. Hope was a force in itself. It kept him moving, kept him alert, and anchored his heart to Linda's even across the vast, shadowed expanse of forest that separated them. He straightened his back, tightened his grip on the phone, and stared into the dimming horizon. Somewhere out there, he knew, Linda waited. And he would not rest until the signal came, until he heard her voice, until the desperate distance between them was finally bridged. Every ache, every uncertainty, every failed attempt was a testament to his determination, a promise that he would find her, no matter how long it took, no matter how many obstacles the forest, or fate, placed in his path.